We are activating your unique self-discovery one show at a time. The Orchard of Wisdom Self-Discovery podcast are at your fingertips, just waiting to inspire and invite you in discovering just how awesome you really are and how to navigate through life in joy, enrichment, personal abundance, in mind, body, spirit, heart, and soul. All the people we bring you are here to serve you on your journey of life. Do enjoy our next show. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, and welcome back to another edition of Your Health is Your Choice, right here on selfdiscoverymedia.com. I'm your host, Sarah Troy, and my guest today is David Hernandez. Your body is your purpose. What do we mean by that? Well, it is your health. And he says that the CNBC revealed that 11 million people die every year due to non-communicable diseases caused by poor eating habits. And as we were just saying before we went on air, it doesn't matter whether you are skinny or obese, and you could be eating stacks of food but still die of famine. Because if you're not eating the right nutrients in the right way, then you are starving your body. He says after losing his childhood best friend, Eric, to obesity at the age of 21, he made a commitment that he wanted to help people avoid them going through what his best friend went through. So he began to reflect on the issues that kept his friend stuck in the unhealthy lifestyle. One issue that he believes is missing in the conversation of health is people's relationship with food, which is a leading cause of overeating. Emotional stress eating is something that affects people between 83 and 88% of Americans, and that number increases every year. A recent article revealed that 11 people die every year caused by poor eating habits. And for the past 15 years, he's been learning, perfecting, and implementing his strategies to create a practical system that helps men and women put an end to the emotional stress eating for good. He's the founder of Body My Purpose and the creator of Elite Champion Fitness Academy and the host of the podcast, Listen, You're Not Defeated. His life mission is to empower over 1 million people to live a better, healthy, fit, and free life. He believes in one core component in everything he teaches, providing value, so that men and women can learn the principles needed to achieve a healthy, fit, and fulfilling life. Well, that is a really wonderful mission to have. And I always say that there's something happens in our life that redirects us to our meaningful purpose. And the
Yeah,
death
that's
of
right.
your friend was that. And in a lot of ways, you honor his life by doing so. But, we were saying before that whether you were skinny, and a lot of people think that body image is that I've got to look like a Kardashian, I've got to look like somebody else, right?
Yeah,
Um, and then you've got so much more obesity than before. And again, it's not through the, whether people are thin or for the lack of food. It's the kind of food they're putting in.
that's right.
And you can have people that are 200 or 300 pounds and they die of malnutrition because they're not getting the right nutrients in the body.
That
And
is correct.
we're just not really savvy on what nutrients to put in our body, are we? Welcome to the show, Han.
Thank you so much for having me, Sarah. It's a pleasure. It's a joy. I love what you're doing. I love what you stand for, and I'm just
Thank you.
excited to be able to join here.
You're the kind of person we love having on here. So
Mm,
somebody who's committed
and
to making that difference and bringing about that knowledge to empower people to make the right choice for themselves and for
mhm,
their longevity. And it's not just their longevity, it's also about the whole wellness. We forget that if we're eating poorly, it not only affects the body, it affects the mind, it affects
that's right.
the organs, it affects
Mhm,
how we interact in society, the domino
yeah,
effect, the diseases that it increases. So, but
yeah.
we're not taught about nutrition. We're not taught about how to eat, are we?
No, it doesn't benefit us in
Mm,
terms of when I say us is society and those that decide how we should live life, right?
yes.
Because if we understand it, then the way they choose to make us live is not going to function. And in
Mm,
that is the food system, right? And here in America, the standard American food diet, other countries have their teachings on how that looks. But at the end of the day, it's always going to reflect how can those that control the food industry benefit from it.
yeah.
And we see so many of that here in America. And let's not look too far when we look at the food pyramid, right?
Hmm.
Back then, that when that was put together, it was really because there was an increase in corn.
Ah,
We
yes.
had a lot of corn that was
Mm.
being manufactured and fabricated, and they're like, well, what are we going to do now? Well, let's create a pyramid that tells people that they should eat more corn and more grains, and that
Mm.
that's healthy for you.
Yeah.
Where and how is that healthy, right?
It's
When we're
great for
looking at
animals. You know,
it is
it's designed
absolutely
for their digestive system, not for ours.
correct.
Yes.
Correct. And how the foods are made with the corn
Yeah.
is the next
Yeah.
problem,
Yeah.
right? In the form of processed foods, in the form of how they are taking literally the nutrients
Hmm.
out of it to create them to be longer on the shelf, to
Preservatives.
have
Hmm.
more of the preservatives so that they can sit longer and they can make more of it, manufacture more of it. So it really comes down to how can they make food that are cheap but high calorie foods?
Yeah.
Doesn't mean good nutrient foods, high calories, meaning you can get a lot of intake, a lot of calories at a very low cost. And sadly, that is what the government, society, and different countries have implemented to basically gain themselves. So the lack of education is
Hmm.
really the problem here. And it starts from our young age, right? It starts in the
Yeah.
home, it starts in the school, it starts
Mhm.
in the core areas where we are learning how to develop and how to view life.
And it's, it used to be, back in my day, I'm 68. So, the food was cooked in the kitchen. You went
Yeah,
to the market to get the food. You
that's
didn't,
right.
in the supermarkets was something new that was slowly coming in. But,
Hmm.
you used to go into one roof where there'd be all the different food vendors all
Yeah,
around in one area, and you knew the source of your food.
that's
Right.
right.
And then we started importing food from this country and that country and spices and things like this. Absolutely wonderful because many of those spices have holistic serves, can
Yeah.
serve us in so many ways. But then, of course, fast food came in and then
Hmm.
it became convenient food. And
That's right.
we're in a hurry. We're going off to this game or that game or rushing here and
Hmm.
rushing there. I'll shove something in my mouth. And now we eat in the car while we're on the way to somewhere. We're
That's right.
gobbling it up, we're not chewing it properly, and we're certainly not digesting any nutrients because that's not what we've got in our hand. And
That's
that
right.
seems to have become an acceptable way of living. But now we have more diseases and more
Hmm.
breakdown physically and emotionally than we've
That's
ever
right.
had before.
That's right. And look, and we have to understand that yes, life has changed.
Yes.
Things have changed in society, right? The pace of life is a lot faster than it was, in the 80s, 70s, 60s, and even not too long ago, even in the 90s, right?
Yeah.
So things evolve, things change. However, what's not happening is teaching us how to stay ahead and have control of our health so that in spite of this fast-paced life,
Hmm.
we can still manage our nutrition, we can still manage our health, because here's the truth: health is, it's not a choice,
No,
it's a necessity, and
totally.
it's our responsibility. However, we hear in society it's okay whether you want to be unhealthy and obese, it's okay as long as you love yourself.
Hmm.
If people don't accept you for who you are, they're the problem. As long as you love yourself, it's okay. Now, I am all for loving ourselves.
Hmm.
But loving ourselves means also you care about yourself. You
Exactly.
take care of the things you love. You take care of that teddy bear when you were a child because
Hmm.
you loved it. And not to go far, you take care of those loved ones around you. Why?
Hmm.
Because you love them, you care for them. And that's the same thing with our body.
Yeah.
Now we look at what's out there for us as well. They're altering chemically foods to
Hmm.
get us addicted to foods
Yeah.
that
GMOs.
are, again, processed foods. They have emulsifiers that are changing the texture of food, that are exactly what your brain likes so that you can become addicted to them. They're adding colors to it, which
Hmm.
now our studies have found that they are changing the behaviors of children.
I
It's
agree.
affecting the behavior of kids, right?
Yes.
And then there's so many different things that are being added to food to alter them to get you to become addicted. So what does that mean? Well, that means that now than never, we need to be aware of this
Hmm.
and take a stand to choose health for ourselves, because it starts with us.
Yes.
It starts with our home. It starts with us understanding and having attention to this topic to become intentional about it.
Right.
Problem is, we're not giving enough attention to it.
No, no. And going back to, the self-love, you talk to a person that's living with obesity and say, well, do you love yourself? And they're going to say, no,
Right.
because my life is affected. I can't
That's
do
right.
things like other
That's
people.
right.
My
That's right.
heart rate goes up, my blood pressure goes up, or I'm too fatigued, or this or that.
That's
And
right.
it's like when we say loving yourself, it's also honoring yourself. And
100%.
most people battle with weight somewhere along the line. I'm always up and down with it, but it's you want your weight to be at a place where you are still proactive, that it's
Yes.
not holding you back. And most obese people will say, how can I love life when I can't participate in it because of
That's
my
right.
obesity? I have now become a part of pharmaceutical world,
Hmm.
and I can't be without it, which is part and parcel. The food
Yeah.
industry and the pharma industry are in
Oh, they're
partnership
they're
here.
tied together. That's
Yeah,
right.
because keeping you sick is keeping them profitable,
100%.
right? Which is
That's right.
an absolute
Sadly,
fact.
it's terrible.
And this show is called Your Health is Your Choice. And it is
Mm,
because when you
it
are
is.
aware that what you're putting in your body
Yeah.
is literally changing the chemistry of your body,
That's right.
which is literally breaking your body down, causing dis-ease,
That's
making
right.
certain organs of your body having to work twice or three times as hard to
Hmm.
produce what it needs to produce. And then we expect it to be working at an optimum,
Right.
and why am I sluggish? Why am I that? Well, now I'm going to take a Red Bull.
That's right.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, look, I really empathize with a lot of people in the understanding that, education has failed us in the sense of health. And
Hmm.
when we look at many that are dealing with obesity, well, why does a person get to a stage to where they do fall
Yes.
into obesity? Well, two factors that I think play a big part into this. One, they don't understand the value of health.
Right.
It's not been emphasized to them. They don't see the benefits. And even if they know the benefits logically, it hasn't come down to
Yeah.
their heart in a
Right.
sense of truly
Mm.
understanding how that will benefit them, the
Engaging in it.
value of health for
Mm.
me, because
Hmm.
health it's personal, right? it's
Yes.
it's you, it should be a part of your identity. So not valuing health or understanding the value of it is a big part. Second
Yeah.
part is not loving yourself or
Hmm.
honoring or knowing your own
Hmm.
value or worth,
Hmm.
right? And so when we look at these two things, it makes it very challenging for somebody to say, okay, well, I want to now be healthy. The issue is not understanding what food is,
Yeah.
because when we really go down to the root cause is the reason people become obese. There's doctors now that are saying that it's a genetic issue, it's a genetic problem, and it's actually a brain defect. No, I totally disagree. Now, is there partial truth in some? There are some cases that maybe you were born with certain health conditions, certain
Hmm.
health situations that make you more susceptible or make you prone to becoming obese. Yes. However, the idea here that is that you have a problem, that there's a defect with you, is not truly the case. The
Right.
case is your relationship with food, and it
Hmm.
stems from not knowing what food is. So, what is food, right? Food, we see it as, oh, it's just something to fuel my body. It's a
Yeah.
lot more complex than
Yeah.
that. It's macronutrients, it's micronutrients,
Hmm.
it's what sends information to the body. What
Hmm.
you put in your mouth sends information to the body, and based on that information is how your body is going to respond. A
Exactly.
signal is sent, and information is sent, the body then responds with that. So if it's constantly getting information of sugar, sugar,
Mm.
sugar, sugar, right?
Hmm.
Processed foods, no nutrients, you are
Salt,
causing
salt,
it to
sodium, sodium.
fire.
Yeah.
That's right. You're causing it to fire and send signals and responses
Yeah.
that cannot sustain you, that will literally start to break you down, right?
Exactly.
And destroy you, when
From
food
the
was
inside out.
intended to keep us
Yes.
alive, but
Yes.
is now causing death.
It's meant to be a substance to fortify you. Instead, it's now breaking us down and destroying us. And when you look
That's
at
right.
labels, I mean, I live with a wonderful 89-year-old. She's turning 90 this July.
Mm,
And I look at what she'll eat for breakfast, and she'll have cereal that's already loaded with sugar.
that's right.
She'll add cream and
Mm,
milk and more
mm,
sugar. And the amount of sugar that she has, with her tea every week. And then she
yeah,
makes this jam that is
that's
not
right.
cooked so the sugar doesn't break down. So, I mean, one touch of it and I taste it and my teeth go cross-eyed because it's
Yeah,
so sweet. And
that's
she
right.
eats so much sugar and she goes, well, I'm 89 and I'm still going. And it's like, well, you're
Hmm.
just a freak of nature because what she doesn't realize that she probably had 60, 70 years of really healthy food in her system,
Yeah,
before all these other chemicals and everything else started coming about. I would say probably like 70s, 80s is when we started really chemicalizing food. And then
yeah,
it's just steadily got worse since then, where you look at the food and say, is there anything in here that's real? It's all
yeah,
synthesized now.
that's right.
And we're
It's
putting
all altered.
all altered. And, I've done a few shows on GMO and I went even on an anti-GMO,
Hmm.
rally. Uh, and there was one rather disgusting interview with one of the guys from Dragon's Den interviewing a young girl, I think she was 12, blaming her for world famine because she was anti-GMO. This 12-year-old stood her ground. I mean, she was just unbelievable how she
Right.
stood her ground against this bully, where
Mm,
he was trying to put this burden on her. And she said, all I want there to be is labels. Let people make the choice.
that's right.
All right.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
that I think has since kind of come about. But do we read the labels? And the
yeah.
consensus is if you don't know what it is or you can't pronounce it, maybe you shouldn't put it in your body.
That's right. That's right. And that's the reason why it keeps on growing and becomes worse and it
Mm.
becomes more destructive, right? Because there's not enough attention
Yeah.
of people standing up for themselves and saying, no, I care about myself. I care about my body. I care about my life, meaning that when I'm healthy, everything around me is benefited, makes me a better parent. I'm able to be there for my kids. I'm able to enjoy my kids. I'm providing a better future for my kids and also educating them and teaching them what living healthy is. It's about
Yeah.
being that example. It
Yes.
starts from our home. When we look at the developmental years of our life from 0 to 7 years old, we are learning
Yeah.
everything.
Hmm.
Observational learning is a very big one for kids. So growing up, they're observing everything mom does. They're
Hmm.
observing everything that's on the plate. They're observing and hearing and listening to what's being told. And in that way is how we're developing our relationship with food. And based on
Yeah.
that, as we grow older, that relationship intensifies. And that's why when we look at as we are older, we're repeating the same eating patterns that
Hmm.
we did growing up. So if you were raised on processed food, you were raised
Yeah.
on fast food, you were raised on quick fix dinners, on microwave dinners, you're probably doing that right now and it's probably gotten worse.
And the equal goes into if you've got somebody that is neurotic over their weight, you
Yeah.
know, um, and then they actually then can pass on the guilt of eating to their children. And then they
Yeah.
wonder why the
Yeah.
children and then having eating disorders. And it's
That's
like,
right.
well, look back to how did you eat? Because they're going to mimic you.
That's right.
Right? And if
100%.
if you're neurotic over your food, then that neurosis is going to be picked up. Kids are sponges; they'll pick anything
Yeah.
up, right?
That's right.
Um, and if you're trying to lose weight or have a body image that's really, quite honestly, not your DNA body structure, but you're trying to look like somebody else, and you're starving yourself to do it,
Yeah.
then equally that just as bad as stuffing your
That's right.
face with food that is absolutely empty for you. So it goes back to mindfulness. I mean, let's face it, our doctors do about 40 minutes of nutritional thing, maybe an hour they've stretched it to now in the whole medical practice, right? And so they don't really know about nutrients. And, if we're not getting it in our food, we need to subsidize it with,
That's right.
the extra vitamins and nutrients to compensate. Have you
Hmm.
ever heard of the Emoto water experiment? The three
No,
glasses.
I
Three
haven't.
glasses of water, one was ignored, one was in a room filled with negativity, and one with positivity. The ignored one
Okay.
stayed the same, the negative one turned black, and the positive one crystallized, where you could actually measure the crystallization as a higher frequency.
Wow.
You know, we are 90% water.
That's right.
So if we are around that negativity all the time, if
Hmm.
we're around anxiousness or we're putting garbage into that water, what's going to happen to the waters in our body? How
It's going
can
to
it
become
help
dark
us?
and
How can
black.
it fortify anything in
Yeah,
us if we're contaminating the water?
that's right. And not only to mention our environment, how that influences who we are and how we're shaped, but the foods that we consume alter and change our makeup.
Yes.
One, they shape who we are physically,
Yeah.
literally, right? But also chemically and neurologically, it changes the formation of the brain.
Well, how
It
many people are suffering
changes.
from brain fog today,
That's right. And when
right?
we look at brain fog and we look at I drew a blank. What is
The
Alzheimer's?
You're right.
When we look at Alzheimer's
And
and
dementia.
even some Parkinson dementia, it's all linked back to abuse of sugar,
I
right?
think also your HDADs and things like that, I think
Of course.
are very
But
much part of that
but
too.
when I say they're linked to that, meaning that those foods are linked to these types of disorders.
Yeah.
So those that abuse these foods again become more prone and susceptible to falling victim of these disorders and these diseases, right? And literally, it's because of the foods we are consuming. We've got to be aware and be intentional about what we're putting in our mouth. We are the ones that can control that.
Oh, yes.
That is one thing that we can control.
Maybe our children can't, but they can demand, you know.
But I mean, you can
But
control what goes into their mouth by
exactly.
also educating them and teaching them
Yes.
what
And
a
by
healthy
example.
relationship of food is,
Yeah.
right? Food wasn't intended to cure your emotions. It wasn't
Right.
intended to bring you joy. It wasn't intended to make you feel good. Now, does it produce that?
Yeah.
Yes. It's going to activate dopamine. It's going to activate serotonin. It's going to activate all of these endorphins in our body. But when we're going to these foods specifically for that,
Yes.
we start to distort our relationship with food. So
We
if
also
we're
distort our
encouraging
relationship with
kids,
our own emotions.
absolutely.
Right? Yeah.
So when we're going to the wrong outlet
Yeah.
to release and deal with our emotions, we start to create a destructive behavior pattern, which is why kids should never be rewarded with food.
Hmm.
If we can control that, right? At the most we can is to not give kids treats with food
Yes,
because we start to
I used
create
to
this
do it with my own
connection.
dog actually when I was training. People would go and give a treat, give a treat, give a treat, and I said, no, the treats are when we go for a walk and I stop for a coffee, then there's a treat, or the treat is when we get back home. But I'm not going to treat her for good behavior. I'm just going to say thank you to her for good behavior.
That's right.
And not
Yeah,
like you have to get a treat every time you do something good, because I didn't
that's
see
right.
the logic behind that. I wanted
And
them to do something right, and I praise them rather than, or thank them, rather
yeah,
than it be a food related thing. And it wasn't
yeah,
based even from the food related. I just didn't want the treats to become then that's the only time they're going to do something good.
that's right. And what happens with kids as we do that, the connection with, oh, every time I do something good, I should be rewarded for
Right.
it, then the tolerance of that feel good, meaning the reward response area of the brain, if we're always giving it something to ignite it with food, well, the threshold of that is going to grow,
Yeah.
which means the excitement level is not going to satisfy them anymore when they're given a specific treat, which means now they want more. They want more.
Yeah.
They
It's
want
never
more. And
enough.
that starts to
Yeah.
create this wrong
Yeah.
connection and this unhealthy relationship with food.
I think people also have to understand, you know, 'cause I've had three kids and got a grandson now. And he's like, you know, he'll be all gong ho over a certain food this week and next week doesn't want to touch it. And that's
Yeah.
just part of, you know, them, their taste buds are growing. They found
Yeah,
something
they're
else.
exploring. Yeah.
And, you know, we've also got to honor our kids
Oh,
on what they
100%.
wish to, you know, because he's a noodle maniac. You know, he loves
Yeah.
noodles.
Yeah.
He loves hummus. I mean,
Mm,
and just he can't get enough of that. But, and he's
yeah.
vegan. I mean, he's 100% fully vegan child, and nobody can
Okay.
believe that he is the age he is because he looks older, and a healthy little boy. But it's his parents have always like let him try it and see how he feels,
That's
and
right.
they're exploring. But why can't we do the same thing? just because you were
Right.
brought up on certain foods. We have so many different food cultures out there right now. And
Mhm.
for the most part, many restaurants have gone into the fusion of Asian and Western and become more mindful of the type of foods that they're putting out there.
Yeah.
And foods that have more nutrition. I'm not talking about your fast food joints or, your burger joints. I'm talking about restaurants that are understanding that there's a balance to food on that
Right.
plate and that there is more choice nowadays out there to be able to eat healthy. If you want a raw
Right.
food diet, there's generally a raw food restaurant somewhere.
Yeah.
Asian food or Indian food is generally really good because of all the nutrients and spices and things that are in there, as long as they're not using Monsanto or um, what's the other thing that the Chinese use? It's a flavor thing.
MSG.
MSG, thank
MSG.
you.
Yeah.
Yes. And a lot of them have stood away from that now too, as
Yeah.
well, and let the flavors speak for themselves. But
But
if we
not in processed food,
no, not in
sadly.
processed food, no. But the thing is, if we don't broaden our minds to ask the questions or read the labels or inquire. Talk with your friends at office or mums, talk with other mums. I want to put a more nutritious diet on the table. Let's share recipes.
That's right.
Let's educate each other. I think there's become a stigma of don't tell me what
Mhm.
to do, I'll feel like a fool.
Yeah.
Instead of like, tell me what to do because I'd like to learn.
Yeah. Look, I mean, it comes down to also simplifying so people understand, well, how should we be eating
Hmm.
to get adequate nutrients,
Yeah,
right? Keep it simple. There's four things we want to be consuming at all times at possible. We want a nutritious, dense protein, meaning that it's a whole protein, right? Whether you're going vegan or you're doing
yeah,
paleo or you're doing balance, it's got to be a good source of protein,
yeah.
right? It's not just a burger. It's not
Hmm.
a frozen piece of meat. I mean, it's a fresh
Yeah,
cut of some type of protein.
yeah.
Second thing is, if we're going to be consuming carbohydrates, we want it to be a complex carbohydrate and primarily for it to stay more on the lower glycemic side of
Hmm.
things. If you have questions about that, really easily go to Google, type in low glycemic carbohydrates. You'll get a list of all those that are there. And we want to make a choice on there. Why? Because when we consume carbs, all carbs turn into sugar.
Yeah,
And what we want to avoid is them turning into sugar fast.
yeah.
So, what low glycemic carbs have is that they're primary also fiber. So, what that's
Hmm.
going to do is that it's going to slower down the absorption in the body and it's going to take longer for that carbohydrate to turn into sugar
Right.
versus when we're talking about a chip or when we're talking
Mm.
about a cookie or when we're talking about a chocolate bar, that turns into sugar immediately, which is why you get the boost of energy, but then comes the crash 15 to
Yes.
20 minutes later, right? So you want to have a complex carb. A second thing is we want vegetables. Again,
Yes.
fiber. What is
Yes.
fiber? Can we digest fiber? No, we can't. We don't have a stomach to, but what it does is that it helps our digestive system.
Hmm.
Two things it does. It helps us to become more satiated, meaning we're going to feel fuller because
Hmm.
they're also primarily filled with water. When we're
Hmm.
talking about broccoli, we're talking about cauliflowers, the substance of it is a lot of it's water and fiber.
Yeah.
So we get the benefits of feeling full and the digestive benefits to help flush our system. And
Right.
then the fourth component we want to have is an essential fat. And
Hmm.
that would be olive oil, whether we cook with it, that would be avocados, that could
Hmm.
be nuts,
Hmm.
things that have good sources of fats.
Right.
Those are the four things we want to be consuming.
Hmm.
So if we can be conscious and looking at our plate and asking myself, is there a healthy, nutritious, dense protein? Is there a good complex carb that is going to give me good quality energy? Is there fiber on my plate? And is there an essential fat? If there is, that is going to help us to become closer to living a healthy life, which
Right.
means we start to eliminate these processed foods. We start to eliminate the sugars. We start to eliminate the high sodium, high fat foods, and we start to slowly make the transition into whole foods. The primary food choices should come from the refrigerator, not the pantry.
Right. Exactly. I add fiber every day to my cereal, whether it's cereal or
Perfect.
oats. I mostly eat oats.
Yeah.
I add my raisins in it and my banana, and that is my start of my day, nine
Yeah.
times out of 10. I'm a six veggie person a day. I love my veggies. And of
Beautiful.
course, green leafy vegetables, absolutely wonderful. Um,
Mhm.
and, I sometimes just roast all my vegetables in the oven with turmeric. Always remember to add
Beautiful.
black pepper to turmeric. It releases the turmeric, which is anti-inflammatory.
That's right.
There's avocado is wonderful. Yes, it's gone up in price. So maybe don't make guacamole out of it, have it
Yeah.
on toast, have it as actually a meal. Um,
That's right.
and that's the thing is like organic foods. People go, oh, but it's so expensive. But this is the difference. When you're eating something that is organic and actually really is very nutritious, you
Mm.
actually eat less food because your body's
That's
been
right.
fortified more. So in
That's right.
the end, you're actually spending less, but you're
That's
getting
right.
better quality.
Which is one way that we can actually battle against cravings. Most
Hmm.
people get sugar cravings, get salt cravings, get all of the cravings that they have towards these unhealthy processed foods is because your body is dying for nutrients.
Yeah.
It needs nutrients. And because it's consuming that sugar so fast, it doesn't have the adequate nutrients for it to sustain. So when we make the transition to start giving our body the adequate nutrients it needs, the cravings that you currently
Yes.
have are going to be significantly reduced. Why? Because your body doesn't need it. Your body is
Right.
getting the adequate nutrients for it to function, for it to think better. You're going to have clarity. You're going to be able to function better. You're going to be able to be at a higher
Hmm.
optimal state to be your best. We all want a better life. We all want to travel. We all want to enjoy. We all want more money. We all want an amazing relationship. We all want to be the best parent. But it all starts with health. It
Yes.
all starts with the foundation of health because your health is bigger than you. It impacts
Hmm.
everything and everyone around you.
It's your
You become
wealth.
healthier,
Yeah.
you're going to make more money. You become
Yes.
healthier, you're going to feel better. You
Yeah.
become healthier, you're going to have a better relationship with people because your
Yes.
mood and your emotions are going to be stable.
Yeah.
You if you're healthier, so many things are benefited from it.
So many more opportunities for you because your health isn't in your way.
Absolutely.
And it is your wealth. It is your wealth on so many levels, financial and well-beingness. It completely is
Yes.
there. I've always kind of eaten pretty healthy. Yes, I've had some, I go for the pizzas and things like
Of
that now and
course.
again. And
We
you
all
can
do.
actually have healthy pizza.
Yeah.
The thing is, you don't have to give up things that you like. There's just eat them in a way that is healthier.
Yeah.
Vegan cheese is absolutely amazing. I had somebody on a little while ago talking about the matrix, and it's all about, veganism and the benefits of it. And a lot of people think, well, protein only comes from animals. No, there's many, many vegetables that have very high protein into them, and we've just
Yeah.
got to educate ourselves as to
That's
what
right.
they are. And that very often the meat that we're eating, unless it is really organically farm sourced, you're eating
Right.
antibiotics, you're eating
Mm-hmm.
God knows what else that they're putting in there. Very
Hormones.
often you're eating the terror of the animal as well, as
Yeah.
it is
That's right.
very inhumanely killed, which is, I'm
Mm-hmm.
sorry, folks, that is fact. Uh, and we wonder why we're seeing so much discontent in the people, so much more anger, so much more violence, so much more depression and anxiety. Yes, a lot of what's going on around us in the world is causing it, but I do believe a great deal of what's going inside of us is also not helping us adjust mentally and emotionally to life.
That's right. Regardless of the choice that you make, whether you decide you're going vegan or you're balanced, whatever that choice is, it's understanding that the nutrients that we put in our body are going to influence us and how we become and how we are as humans.
Yes.
And if regardless of what's going on in our world, the one thing we can control is how we choose to interact with people, how we choose to be as humans, how we choose to decide to live our life, right? We can either be a statistic or we can be an example that is going to encourage others around us to actually honor themselves and
Hmm.
actually respect and be able to love one another by first loving yourself
Yes.
and respecting yourself to understand that what you choose to pick and what you choose to digest and intake is going to dictate who you become.
I'm going to go as far as to say not just the food you choose to digest, the news. you choose to digest,
Absolutely. I mean,
you
yes,
know?
100%. Yeah.
Because
And
it has a huge effect on your health and the
it
breaking down.
does.
Again, 90% water, and if you're constantly feeding it negativity, it's going to start breaking down. And
Yeah,
we've we've got to we pay more attention to our cars than we do our bodies,
that's
right?
true.
We want
Yeah,
good oil in there, good fuel in there, and we wash our cars and we look
that's
after
right.
them. And but do we ourselves? And this vehicle's with you for life, mate.
That's it.
You
It
know,
takes you everywhere.
it
It
takes
takes
you
you into your
everywhere.
car, right? So you
Exactly.
did say a point. Yes, prices have gone up, but
Yeah.
what's your value? What's your
Yeah.
worth? Right? It's understanding that I deserve to give myself health. I deserve, because the truth is you're going to spend it regardless. Whether
Yes.
you spend it now, you're going to spend it later
Yes.
through medication,
Yes.
through health insurance, through the
Mm,
doctor's visits,
mm,
through pain, through
mm.
discomforts, through hating yourself, through
Yeah.
shame, through
Hmm. Losing your
self-destructive
job.
behaviors, right?
Yes.
I
Yeah.
mean, you're going to spend it, and
Yes.
it's going to cost you more
Yeah.
if
Prevention's
you
better than
choose
cure.
to that's right. It's better to invest it now
Yes.
in understanding what your return is
Yes.
that you're going to be getting from investing and paying an extra buck, an extra $2 for better quality of food than going to a fast food and buying the same amount of food that is destroying you and isn't giving you the adequate life that you desire.
Most of your fast food nowadays is anything from the cheap, like 12 to 15 or $18 now,
Yeah, that's right.
And if you put that down at the groceries where you did start buying like the kidney beans and the
Yeah,
chickpeas and you started, I have like a whole bin here of cashew nuts and sesame
yeah,
seeds and uh
that's right.
pumpkin seeds and
Yeah,
just I mean I'm allergic to other nuts. I mean almonds and walnuts are great to have as well because they're, all of these things have great nutrients in them, and they've also vitamin B17, which is the anti-cancerous vitamin
that's
as
right.
well. And so when I'm feeling a little low energy, a handful of those. And I
That's right.
love pumpkin seeds. I mean, they're delicious. And the thing is, change your diet. The thing, if the prices are going up on the foods you normally eat, look to other foods that are more economical that you can make en
That's right.
masse and that are
Yeah.
cheaper to make, that are just as fulfilling and probably in the long run better for you.
That's right. My wife and I went to the grocery store yesterday. Yes, prices have gone up everywhere, but we went and we got a case of beef,
Hmm.
of thinly cut beef. We bought bok choy, garbanzos, and I think it was some scallions, a few other things, and we spent total max about 15, $16 on that, and we have 4 meals
Yeah.
that we can make out of 16 versus having
Yes.
one food at a restaurant for $16 that you have no control of what's going in there.
Right.
Right? There's so many alternatives. We found a bag of chicken as well, 10 pounds of chicken, which was under $5.
Hmm.
There are ways that you can do. Obviously, we're on the balance side.
Hmm.
We eat animal meat, and it's really about you just putting attention and being intentional about what you are going to choose to eat.
And being experimental.
That's right.
I
Having
like
fun with it.
taking,
It's all about having fun with this.
yes, because if you're not willing to explore, I had
That's
I
right.
mean I was brought up in England and I was actually
Yeah.
very limited to what I ate in England. Then we moved to South Africa and I discovered different
Mm.
foods over there. I mean the
Yeah.
seafood to die for and braai vleis, the barbecue,
Yeah. Yeah.
out on the beach and all of these type of foods which I opened up to considerably. Then I
Hmm.
traveled the world and I opened up to different tastes elsewhere and it was wonderful. In fact, I can describe my experience wherever I went by the food that I ate and how
Mm.
it made me
That's
feel.
gorgeous. That's
And I
awesome.
married an Oriental gentleman, no longer married, but he introduced me to the Oriental food and
Hmm.
I just love it. And I very often just make that myself. Things like bok choy and su choy
Oh,
and broccoli
fantastic. I
greens, they've
love
got
them so
so
much.
much fiber and nutrients in them. I'm a
Hmm.
huge spinach eater. Of
Yeah.
course, kale is wonderful. Hard to cook with
Hmm.
unless you really know how, but absolutely
That's right.
wonderful. If you buy is it a dehydrator? You can make kale
Hmm.
chips,
Oh, yeah.
and you can do
That's
all
right.
sorts of things inside there. It's just take the time to be exploratory. Go to an Indian or Chinese type supermarket and
Yeah.
look at what they have there, and even ask
Yeah.
them, do you have some recipes to go with this? If not, online, Google recipe to cook
Nowadays, there's no
this.
more
No,
excuses with
there are
that.
no more
There's so
excuses.
much.
You'll get, and I've again on veganism, I've had numerous people share numerous recipes out there. So people are always looking for that. Um, I do believe that deciding to explore different foods, try different foods, especially foods that you know that are very high quality and what you need. And fiber is really essentially important in your body
Yeah.
as well as those omegas. That willing to try them and explore, but also willing to cook together,
Yes,
willing to
that's right.
prepare together. And then when you
Yeah.
eat together, the gratification of that meal, I
Mhm.
believe, adds a different frequency and vibration to the food you're eating and a different appreciation in how you eat it.
I agree. I agree. And these are beautiful ways that you can bring those around you together,
Hmm.
right? As it is, food is something that we all tend to come together with
Yes,
on
socialize with,
certain
yeah.
holidays,
Mhm.
socialize with. But this is a great opportunity that you can bring your kids together and help them help you to prepare foods, to cook
Yes.
foods, right? Incorporate the family, friends, and really make it a social event that will allow all of you to get the benefits from living healthy.
And kids love to help in the kitchen. I mean, my 22-month-old is standing on this stool and he wants to just get his hands in something, right?
Yeah,
And he's kind of getting to it. And my daughter praises him, "Oh, thank you for your help." And so he wants to help more. And so what
that's
if he
awesome.
makes a mess?
It's okay.
It's all
Just
part
clean
of
it.
that discovery. You can clean it afterwards. It's about getting them used to it and getting them want to be a part of it.
Yeah. But now it takes time and I don't have time. Well, if
Mm,
we would spend less time being sedentary or less time on the television or
yeah.
less time on the phone, social media, and invest an hour, 2 hours, right, to your health. And that includes the food you cook, preparing that, but also being active,
Hmm.
moving more,
Yeah.
right? We're not as intentional about it anymore. And that in itself, if one, our nutrition is off, and two, we're not being active, we're just sitting, we're a lot more sedentary, we're not moving as we should. Well, one, our body's going to deteriorate, it's going to break down. Our
Hmm.
muscles are going to deteriorate and break down, which will then lead to bone issues,
Yes.
arthroporosis, arthritis, and things like that because our muscles are weak to sustain us. And on top of that, we're going to be dealing with health complications, obesity, heart conditions, fatty livers, and all of these things that come as a result of living unhealthy and not moving. It becomes a very destructive behavior pattern.
Yes.
So it's about making health fun and knowing that it should be a part of your life, right? Which is now changing the style and how you're living and
Yeah.
introducing and making health be a part of that so that together you can enjoy it. Can you play with your kids outside? Kids should be encouraged to play outside. They're
Yes.
taking recess, PE away from schools.
Mm.
Shame on them. But we
Yes.
can still do it as an example with parents, right?
Yeah.
Take them outside to play frisbee, kickball, take them outside to the pool to have fun. I mean, there's so much we can really do, but it's up to us as parents and adults to be that example, grandparents to encourage kids that healthy is fun and it's beneficial and they should seek it for themselves.
Yes. And even if it's just a simple walk, 25 years ago, I was diagnosed with fibromyalgia, which is
Mm,
mostly kind of an inflammational disease. And there's 31
that's right.
points and conditions under the umbrella of fibromyalgia. And it took me many years to kind of know what I had, and then eventually saw one of the leading specialists of understanding what it is
Mm-hmm.
and what my limitations are. And that also to understand there really isn't a cure for it. It's just something you have to manage. So
Yeah,
then I had to become more aware of what my limitations are, what I can and cannot do, but what I needed to do for myself. And as it's an inflammation disease, it is about keeping those inflammations down.
that's
And it's
right.
looking at things that do that. And there's various nutrients I take every single day, which
Mm-hmm.
help kind of sustain a certain part of my body. But it also is in things like incorporating things like turmeric and other things that keep the inflammation down. It's becoming mindful I know
That's
that I
right.
have limitations with my physicality now. Um, and there's no point in pushing, is, go push through it. No, you just, when you have
So you get
differently,
hurt.
you're going to get hurt. The price you're going to pay is more detrimental. So the
That's
thing
right.
is you push as far as you know your limit can go.
That's
But
right.
you learn to partner with whatever condition you have, and you learn to honor what it can and cannot do. But also you look at other different ways to do things, but also to put in your body that you know is going to help it. So it's
That's right.
just like if you had a best friend and this
Mm-hmm.
best friend has is now compromised, you're going to help that best friend in any way you can
Yeah.
with, feeding them, with helping them, with nurturing them, encouraging them. So whatever,
Beautiful.
disability or whatever challenge you may be carrying with you, treat it as a best friend that you're looking after and looking out for.
That's right. There's always ways around everything,
Yes.
right? And it's really about understanding that movement is medicine to the
Yeah.
body. So it's not specific types of movements, it's all movement.
Hmm.
That could be from walking to being a triathlon, right?
Hmm.
To bodybuilding or to simply doing dynamic movements,
Hmm.
corrective movements, being functional in
Yes.
terms of you being able to move, sitting down,
Qigong, Tai
standing,
Chi, if you can't
squatting,
do the big
walking.
stuff, right? Yeah.
That's right.
Swimming, if you
There's
can't do the
so
heavy
many
stuff, there's
things.
so many things you can do. Sometimes because I'm 7 hours a day at this computer, and sometimes I just get up and I literally just, I'm on the spot and just twisting and
Yeah,
turning, just getting the circulation going.
that's
And I
right.
have, at my feet, one of those things that massages my feet. I have a massaging
Beautiful.
thing at my back just to make sure the
That's great.
circulation is going. So
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
is okay. You maybe your job is asking you to do this, or your lifestyle's asking you to do that. Try and find other ways to fit in what you need to fit in, which then
That's
comes
right.
down to life management. Kind
That's
of
right.
don't be so busy.
Hmm.
Why have we become so busy? What are we chasing? Do we not
Yeah.
know actually that the knowledge that we seek, the peace we seek, the love we seek is in the presence, in the moment, and that when we're actually more conscious with being with ourselves, we are
That's
actually
right.
being fulfilled instead of chasing that happiness on the outside?
Yeah. Yeah, we're not being present. We're
No,
always concerned about the future of what
yeah,
comes next, what comes next, and we're not enjoying the now.
no,
And it is about enjoying the now, being present, being aware of what's going on, of what's happening, and understanding that it's as easy as sitting down for 50 to 60 minutes and getting up to walk and move for 10 to 15 minutes.
yeah,
Can we be effective in that?
hmm,
Can we do the simplicity of that, right? Can I develop a routine that I will be intentional about walking 5 to 15 minutes each day on top of what I'm already doing, right? It really just comes down to how much do you really care? How much are you willing to give attention to this? Be mindful of it and understand that every little counts
yes,
because the small compounds and it becomes much greater the more consistent we can become with it and know that it's part of your life.
yeah. It's
You
part of the
deserve it.
quality of your life. It's
That's right.
whether you have quality or not.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
had a wonderful woman who was a host here for 5 years, Suma Nathan under Wise Health, and she was called Snake Oil Woman because back in the 60s, because she was talking, all these alternatives. So, back
Yeah.
then they were kind of called snake oil, and
Correct.
she was just mindful of knowledge, of what she shared, and then she co-showed with someone else who is an energy healer, and shared so much wonderful wisdom. But she would always say your liver, your kidney, and your colon are some of the most important organs in your body because if
Yeah.
they're not being looked after, they can't support the rest of the body.
Mm. It's great. Yeah.
So the liver and the kidneys, they're the filtration systems.
That's
And
it.
if we're having the toxins stay in our body because we're not flushing them out, which means back to water. But at the same
Mm-hmm.
time, you can
Hydration.
drink a lot of water, but what kind of water is it?
That's right.
Where is it really coming from? Look at your source
Mm-hmm.
of water. And you
Yeah.
think, oh, I'll have bottled water, but very often that's just out of the same tap.
Yeah.
There are many things that
Or
you
they
can,
add sodium to it or they
yes,
add sugar to
yeah,
it. I mean, there's so
yeah.
so many things that are done.
I mean, you can add colloidal silver to it,
Hmm.
which will make it more nutriently and hydrate your body better. It is, we have to, as we would in our business, as we would in raising a family, as we would in anything else that we did in our work world, we would look at what are the details? What are
Yeah,
the details? What are the ingredients in this? So I know how to cook it, so to speak.
that's
Why are
right.
we not doing the same over our bodies?
Yeah, yeah. Because it's not as luxurious. It's not as fashionable or exciting as
Pronounced and or
pronounced. Yeah,
encouraged.
encouraged at
And
all.
Carrie,
Which is
going back your
why
food industry and the farmer industry, right? They
that's
don't want
right.
you to find your own
Absolutely.
health. They're
Yeah.
making money
Yeah.
off you.
That's right. That's right.
I mean, we have such a shortage. We have, I think, 3 million or 6 million people without doctors here in Canada, and I haven't had a doctor now for a few years. We have a lot of people that are not getting diagnosed with things, falling through the cracks because there's no one to go to.
Right.
We have a lot of emergencies where people are literally dying because it's so many hours in there before anyone gets to see them. But we also need to look at um, who is going to the emergency and is it something that they could have prevented themselves?
Prevented. Absolutely.
Right. And I think again, back to your health is your choice. We have to take ownership to who we are, why we are, and what we're here to do. What happens to you is just part of your life's journey. And when you make it like, what am I meant to learn from this? Who am I meant to become from this? How
That's
can
right.
I become better for this and be of service to others? That's what our
That's
life's
right.
journey is about.
Yeah.
Instead of allowing ourselves to become the victim and staying a victim and then being self-destructive
Hmm.
through food or through bad habits, that then we then say, see what you did to me? No, you did
Yeah.
that to yourself.
That's right. That's right. Look,
Ownership.
The CDC did a study and they said that 76% of most non-communicable diseases could have all been prevented. They could have
Hmm.
been avoided had people chosen health.
Yeah.
So it is about responsibility.
Yes.
It's all about standing and owning it and taking responsibility for yourself.
Yeah.
And yes, maybe granted, you weren't raised in a home where they educated you or
Hmm.
they didn't teach you about a healthy relationship. You didn't get the information, but that was then. What about
Yes.
now?
Exactly.
You can
Exactly.
now stand for yourself and take
Hmm.
responsibility and still say, okay, I can still change right now. I can change my future by what I do today. So
Exactly.
you can take a stance regardless of your past,
Yeah.
regardless of trauma, regardless of whether you had or didn't have, or you were raised in a low income family, dysfunctional home. We empathize, we understand.
Hmm.
However, we can still change that situation today.
Change the pattern.
That's right.
That why do we see so much trauma continue on? Because people don't know how to change the pattern or unwilling to change the program. If
That's
it's
right.
not working for you, it's
That's
time
right.
to change the program.
That's right.
If it is not serving you, mind, body, heart, spirit, and soul, then it's time to change the program. Switch to a
That's right.
different channel. And you might
That's
have
right.
to go to a few channels before you feel tuned in,
And that's
right?
okay.
Yeah,
Right.
just part of the
However
exploration of
long it
life.
takes.
Right,
Because we didn't get where we're at simply because of, a few weeks or a few
right.
months of the same behavior patterns, right? It was
A lifetime. Mm.
years upon years of that.
And
And
very
in the
often
same
DNA.
way, yeah, of course. Yeah. There are things and all of that plays in effect, but the truth and the good thing about this is that we can rewrite our life
Yes, we can.
because we can rewire and change our behavior patterns, right? Because of neuroplasticity and change the things that we're doing by taking a stand and choosing responsibility and choosing health for ourselves.
I had a wonderful woman she called herself AKA the fat chick. And
Mm,
she was just one of these people that was bigger bodied,
right.
but she had a hot flash dance in the middle of Times Square.
Mm,
So she teaches people that no matter what level they're at, physically,
mm,
emotionally, of how to exercise. So she's incredibly healthy. and
Yeah.
she's very, very physical. She's just a very big structure, and her
Right.
body is more rounder,
Yeah.
but she's healthy. So we're not saying to everybody you need to be slim and skinny to be healthy.
Hmm.
And there are a lot of
No,
people that I know that have gone on diets, slimmed right down, and their bodies have then gone back to where their bodies are happy to be,
yeah,
right? As long as you're healthy, as long as what you're putting in is healthy, if your body is happy at that particular structure, it's okay, as long as the inside and the outside is healthy.
that's right. Health is foundational.
Yeah.
That core component needs to be in place. I
You've
agree.
you've got bodybuilders that, muscles pounding everywhere, but that doesn't
Hmm.
necessarily mean they're healthy because it's all
That's
about
right.
that protein and bulking up. But they're putting such a strain on all those muscles and all those organs in
Hmm.
all that
When they get
bodybuilding.
on stage, they're actually at the weakest and are the most unhealthy when they're on stage because if something's off, they could have a heart attack, they
Yeah.
can fall with no energy. I mean, it's bad because they take their body to that limit, right? They deplete themselves so much that any wrong little thing can take them down.
Well, look at recently that football player who
That's
had a
right.
heart attack in the middle, in the
Hmm.
middle of a run, and it's like, and a young man at that. What was he,
Yeah.
24?
24.
Uh,
Hmm.
and we've seen it with ice skaters. We think they're the top of their game physically, and
Yeah.
then, but if we do not know our bodies genetically, but again,
Yeah.
if we've put ourselves into wanting to do that triathlon. We don't want you to go from zero to entering the triathlon tomorrow. You have to
Yeah.
build your body up.
That's right.
Your body has to gain its strength and gain its muscle mass and gain its fluidity. And you need to do that, step by step. Do not
Yeah.
suddenly leap into it because now you're overexerting your body when it's not ready for it. And
Hmm.
if you do choose to be a very physically active person, make sure that you are getting the right nutrients in your body to sustain it.
Yeah. Yeah. Look, we can't control what can happen,
No,
right? You can be at your healthiest and something might happen. However, being healthy gives you a better probability
of survival.
of survival and not ending up that way. And if you are seeking these extreme sports or any type of sports, well, it's important to also one understand your body,
Yes.
understand and look at, well, how does my body function? What is my body
Mm,
like? What doesn't it like? How is it? How can I learn from my body? And also get it checked up
yeah.
regularly. Go for checkups. See how
Mm,
the internal things are functioning, not just the external, because the external can look great, but the internal, something might be hindering, something might be wrong, something might be affected, right? And it's better to know early so we can make changes and adjust it so we can live the life we desire.
My brother 9 years ago had a heart attack. He was looking after my mother at the time, who was bedbound and under a lot of stress. So we put it down to that.
Mm.
9 years later, he had another heart attack where they found out that he really had a defective heart. Now, we lost my
Wow.
father when I was 11 to heart disease. So,
Wow.
quintessentially, he'd got my father's heart. But
Mm.
because he walks at least 10,000 steps every day,
Yeah.
right? And he is vegan, 100% vegan, and very frugal,
Hmm.
very conscious of what he eats and even what he drinks, now and again, a glass of wine. Um,
Yeah.
he's very conscious of it. He still had a heart attack, but they said to him, because of his lifestyle, he prolonged.
That's
That
right.
heart would have given up on him because it needed stents in it, because it was damaged.
Hmm.
But he prolonged it through his lifestyle. It also meant that he recovered a lot quicker
That's right.
because of his lifestyle. So, no,
Yeah.
it didn't matter what he did right. He still had the heart attack because he had a defective heart. But
That's
at the
right.
same time, he prevented it from killing him and he healed a lot faster from it. And,
That's right.
that is, again with me with the fiber, unfortunately, I have had illnesses since I was little,
Mm.
since I was two. So, I've always had those challenges
Yeah.
that have come with me. But again, I think too, the mind over matter.
Hmm.
So many people get diagnosed with something and they die out of the diagnosis,
Yeah.
or they become their disease,
Hmm.
right? They're not a person with it, they become
Yeah.
it. It becomes their identity. And that breaks you down.
Yeah.
That will be the killer of you. because you had given into the disease and become it rather than having it where you are going to triumph over it.
That's right. That's right.
Attitude is
Makes a big
huge.
difference.
Yeah.
Totally. Totally. It sets us up. It gives us a better probability to fight, right? If
Yes.
there are things that we just can't control that come up.
Right.
And, it's life.
Yes.
It can happen. However, again, you have a better chance at fighting and giving yourself a better
Mm.
possibility and an opportunity to sustain and live life. Back in 2018, I went on a trip on a mission trip to Haiti. Came back 5 days later, was rushed to the emergency room. I came down with 3 tropical viruses,
Wow.
one known as dengue fever. I was in ICU for 11 days fighting for my life.
Wow.
I survived, but the doctor did say, had you not been as healthy as you were
Yes.
and had the amount of muscle that you had,
Mm-hmm.
you would not be here today.
Mm-hmm.
Could I control that those diseases?
Yeah.
Could I control getting hit with dengue fever? Absolutely not. But I did give myself a chance to live and
Mm.
survive and fight because I took care of myself, because I made health and have made health a priority for myself. It saved my life, right?
Exactly. It's like in the building a structure of a home. If you build it, the foundation strong and the walls strong, the roof may be blown off, but the
Mm,
walls are still standing. You
that's
can
right.
always rebuild the roof, right? And it's like,
Yeah,
where is our structure? Where is our foundation? Where are we rooted? And it's not just about the physical. We have to
right.
understand we are mind, body, heart, spirit, and soul.
Yeah,
If we
yeah.
have to treat ourselves as a whole, and our psyche needs to be just as in sync with our
Mhm.
body, as our mind, as our spirit, as our heart, as our intention in life. Otherwise, we're out of sync. And when we're out of sync, that's when things start breaking down.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. And it's being, again, aware
Mm,
of what I am choosing to do daily, who I
yes.
am choosing to surround myself with. What is my environment like, right? What am I choosing to listen to? What am I choosing to see? What am I choosing to intake? What am I choosing to do on a daily basis? Because all of those things influence our mind, they
Yeah.
influence our emotions, they influence who we are, they influence who we become and who we turn
Precisely.
out to be, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Again, our choice. Now, you have a podcast yourself called You're Not Defeated. Do you do interviews or are you just basically speaking yourself as a tidbit on the podcast?
Correct. Yes. It's listen, you're not defeated. And it is primarily myself doing conversations, all based on health. It is geared to help you live a not defeated life, to
Mm.
really empower you and equip you with core components that I believe will help you live the best life possible.
So those tips are there. Do you do it weekly or how often?
Yes, every week on Tuesday, we
Hmm.
release a brand new episode. And then I do free Friday trainings every week as well, which are uploaded to my YouTube channel. You can join my community YouTube channel. I have all the replays there. So I upload them to my YouTube channel and also on my podcast station.
And if people want to get hold of you and want to work with you, how do you work with them and how do they get hold of you?
Yeah, great question. Two ways they can connect with me through social media platform. You can find me on all social media platforms under my handle at Dave K Hernandez, DAVEKHERNANDEZ, and also my website www.davidhernandez.co, davidhernandez.co.
Hmm.
So that's co. And there's two options. We can do one-on-one coaching where we go through a term period of 6 months or 12 months. And we really work exclusively based on your goals, based on the things you want to achieve. And then we also have a group coaching where you can join a group setting. 10 to 12 people are in that group. And we also accommodate a customized program to suit your needs based on your goals.
And is this in person or online?
It's all virtual online. Yes, ma'am.
And that's the beauty of it nowadays, right? You
That's
know, I
right.
mean, how many people now will do yoga by Zoom, or do other
Absolutely.
things
Yeah.
by Zoom because it's opened up that world. So it doesn't matter, well, I couldn't make it to the gym or I
Yeah.
couldn't make it. Well, it is your home. Just
That's right.
create some space and do it right there.
That's
Right?
right. That's right.
So
A
we
lot of benefits now.
a hell of
No
a lot more benefits.
excuses.
Yeah.
No
Yeah,
more
exactly.
excuses.
The ability to kind of record something so you can go back and listen to it, or listening
That's
to the
right.
podcast on your way to work.
Yeah. Yeah.
Basically what you're doing is giving people that encouragement and support as they're,
Hmm.
whether they're on the journey with you or just on the journey on their own.
Yeah.
It's those tidbits, because a lot of the time people go, I really want to, but how? And
That's
it's
right.
like, if your intent is to want to, the teacher will come.
That's
And
right.
here you are, and you've got your YouTubes, you've got your podcasts, and then you are open to people to joining either in a group setting or individual setting. But
Yes,
we've
ma'am.
also got to understand we need to invest in ourselves.
Yes,
Again,
that's right.
we need to upgrade on our computer, we will. Our car breaks
Hmm.
down, we will fix it. Or something in the
Right.
house needs to go, we'll fix it because it's important. Why are
Right.
you not important? Why are
Mm.
you not investing in yourself? And if you feel, it's just too daunting, I can't do it on my own, I need someone to help me reset this pattern, that's what you're there
Yeah,
for.
that's right. And look, I said it earlier, but you're already spending the money now.
Yes.
Might as well invest it making changes in your life so that in the long run, you're going to have a better return. You can either invest it now or spend it later, but you're already spending it.
And please don't give pharmaceutical more power. Please.
That's right.
Right?
That's right.
It's a they've got a drug for everything, only for us to
Yeah.
then find out that the drug is detrimental, right? And it's no,
Yeah.
we don't want, let's face it, there are certain life-saving drugs, absolutely.
Oh,
There's
of course. Yeah.
life-saving medical procedures, absolutely. But one of the things we're not taught is prevention. We're
Hmm.
not taught what is the core problem. We're not
That's
taught
right.
about let's look at the core and re-strengthen and rebuild that, and not
Yes.
just pharmaceutical, which is the band-aid approach. All right.
Yeah.
So,
That's right.
before you're so quick to down that pill, look at what else you can do like with type 2 diabetes. Numerous
Hmm.
amount of people I know have come off have been a type 2 diabetes through the change of diet
Yeah.
and no longer
Absolutely.
diabetic at all.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
even dementia is something that's caused a great deal by the chemicals that we use and the foods that we
Hmm.
eat. And it can, if not be reversed, it can be slowed down.
That's right. That's
Alzheimer's
right.
is something that's generally hereditary and very much in your DNA, but the dementia is very much something that comes on through lifestyle, through trauma, or through
Hmm.
even the things like aluminium that used to be
Yeah.
in our under our deodorant can cause multiple sclerosis.
Yeah.
So
That's true.
we are learning things more and more, which means why would you go and use that? You see these drug commercials. Depression hurts, and you see all these people hurting. You can take this drug, and then there's 10 minutes of it may cause suicide. It may cause this, it may cause that. And it's like,
That's what I was
what?
gonna say. That's right. That's right.
What?
Yeah.
You're
Yeah.
willing to
Yeah.
take this with all those risks?
Hmm.
Right? It's
It's a quick fix.
it's a
That
quick fix, but
sadly,
is it?
that's what people are looking for.
Yes.
But
No.
it comes with the cost.
Oh, a huge
It comes
cost,
with the
very often your
price.
life.
That's right.
I was given one because depression is part of the fibro, but it's something I've suffered from in my life anyway. And I was given a pill back in South Africa many, many years ago, over 45 years ago, and it was new on the market. And I was out with my dog driving. It's a sports car out with my border collie, and I'm driving along the road, and it's a sheer cliff down to the water, and it's all rock. And there's a turn over there, and you can stop there and look over the water. It's beautiful.
Hmm.
But many people have driven off and committed
Oh,
suicide. Well, the trouble is with the drug that I was on, I thought I could fly. And I
wow.
thought, oh, let's fly, let's fly. I'm so high from this particular
Mhm.
antidepressant. My
Yeah.
dog barked at me. I barked back at her. She touched me. I touched her. She eventually threw her entire body over me. And I was driving stick.
Wow.
And I came off the stick and came to a standstill a few inches away from the cliff. Right? It was taken off the market because too many people committed suicide. Right.
Wow.
So, just because there's a new drug out there and they're advertising it as great, please, please look to all the other ways you can do things.
Yes. Yes.
Because I'm on one now that's been around for a long time and it's very low dose and I only take it when I need to. Otherwise, I look to what else is going to soothe my soul and rebalance me so that I don't go down that rabbit hole. There's always another solution. Just please give
Yes.
yourself the time and explore other ways of doing it. right? Be
That's right.
present with
That's right.
self.
Yes, I love that. I love that.
So
Great
food
advice.
is it, exercise is it, attitude is it, taking ownership over our own lives is it. There is no, it's everybody else's thing. No, you're living in this vessel,
That's right.
right?
That's
You're
right.
driving this vessel. Just as
Hmm.
we want you to be responsible on the road behind a car, we want you to be responsible in your body and take
That's
care of
right.
this vessel so it can give you a long ride and not a bumpy ride.
That's right. Well said.
So again, David Hernandez.co, not .com, folks,
Correct.
.co. And they can also reach out to you at david@davidhernandez.co. Your podcast is You're Not Defeated. They can find that on the site.
Yes, it's listen, you're not
You're,
defeated.
listen, You're Not Defeated. And then, of
Yes,
course, you're
on
on
all
Facebook.
podcast stations, they can find me.
Great. And you're on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. They can find you all there as well. Take a listen to the podcast. Look at some of the YouTubes. If you want to dip your waters in slowly and slowly start
Yeah,
changing your mind, listen to him
yeah.
and let it resonate with you, and then reach out and commit. Listen, learn, apply, please.
Beautiful.
Thanks so much
Thank
for
you so
being with us
much.
here today.
My pleasure, Sarah. Thank you, ma'am. It was an honor. Had so much fun, and I'm here to support in any way I can. Thank
Right
you.
back at you. And folks, we're here to support you on this journey of life. Don't be afraid to change. Anything can change for the better. It's just up to you in the willingness to do so. And you're not alone in doing it. Until next
That's right.
time, bye for now. We hope that you enjoyed the show. Find all of our shows on selfdiscoverymedia.com under podcasts or selfdiscoverymedia/shows. And for all our current shows, go to What's New. We are supported by you, the audience. You'll see a nice big shiny blue button for one-time donations or follow us on Patreon and you will be able to support us there. We enjoy bringing you such wisdom. And the next show will be up in just a moment.